بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيد الرسل وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله الأزكياء وأصحابه الأتقياء أما بعد. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had many dear companions of his. Many of them were with him from the earliest days of Islam, while others joined along the journey. Those that were with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam from the earliest times were very dear and near to them. When you study the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you see a very diverse portfolio of people. You see that there are the rich, and then there's the poor. You see there are people who are very eloquent and very good with words, and then there were those who weren't so good with their words. You find some who were strong warriors, and then there were those who weren't necessarily great warriors. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam treated all of them with immense love, tenderness, and care. He always looked after them, always spoke to them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to treat each and every one of them, male or female, child or adult, they should be treated equally and with love. One day Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was sitting by the Kaaba. For a period now, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam had a deep desire in his heart that the leaders of Mecca come and sit with him, leave the hostility, and just listen to what he has to say. The Prophet ﷺ hoped that if they heard his message once, if they heard it clearly, it's possible that they would be open to Islam. And if they accepted Islam, this would open up the doors for many others to also accept Islam, everyone else in Makkah Mukarramah. This is how that society would work. If the leader would accept, everyone under would follow. So one day Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was sitting by the Kaaba, engaging with these leaders of Mecca, when a companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was passing by. He was someone who couldn't see, dharirul basar. He was born blind according to some narrations. He was walking past, he heard Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam speaking. Obviously, since he's blind, he doesn't know who Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is speaking to. When he hears the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he gravitates towards that gathering. He stands in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and he asks the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam a question. In that moment, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was torn between two conversations. One conversation that was ongoing with a group of people who finally had sat with him, who Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had so much desire and love for them to learn this message of Islam. And on the other hand was this conversation of a companion who was like family to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He was someone who Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam could speak to at any occasion, any day, in any gathering. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam turned his face away from this blind companion, and the ayah of the Quran actually tells us, abasa, he frowned as well in that moment. The blind Sahabi clearly did not see the frown and possibly did not even see Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam turning his face away. But it was seen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then steps in to correct Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in this moment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins to advocate on behalf of a man who is not able like other companions are. He is disabled. He can't see. And what we see here is that where no one can advocate on behalf of someone, or where people don't advocate on behalf of the weak, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to speak on their behalf. When I read this ayah, I see a very powerful message. Because this story could have been told in different ways. Someone could easily argue that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was already in a conversation So the Sahabi who was joining that conversation should have waited. Someone could have made that argument. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam a higher form of da'wah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam how to give importance to people who are yours, who've already committed to you, and not overcommit to people that are arrogant, amma man istaghna, who show that they have no interest in you from the get-go. These people have been ignoring you for so long, and this person on the other hand, Abdullah bin Maktoum radiallahu an, his love for you is relentless. It's never ending. He's always by your side. He's always there to support you. When he shows up, he should be prioritized. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from these verses, the opening verses of Surah Abasa, teaches us some very powerful lessons. For example, we learn from this that when someone comes to you and they are asking you a question, you should prioritize them over people that you are going after. When someone comes to you asking you a question, there's a talab, there's an excitement, there's a joy, there's a drive in that question. As opposed to when you're going to people, you're not sure if they're going to reciprocate in the drive and excitement that you may be offering to them. Another thing the scholars point out when they look at these verses and reflect over lessons that can be implemented in our lives while engaging others with Islam is that always learn to prioritize a benefit you have already versus a potential future benefit that may come into existence. So when we take this principle and apply it to this ayah, what we see is Abdullah bin Maktoum radiallahu anh was already Muslim. He was already benefiting from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The question he asks Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the answer he received, he will implement it in his life. That's a benefit we already have. Versus a benefit that you may potentially get if you continue to engage these people. Only Allah knows if they will accept Islam or they won't. And if not all of them, most of them actually died in a state of kufr. Those people that were in that gathering with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Another thing some ulama point out is, if you have to choose between working on the Muslim community and working on the non-Muslim community, if working with the non-Muslim community involves you neglecting the Muslim community, you will always prioritize those that have already accepted Islam. Hopefully we won't have to choose between. We can work on both, inshallah. We can work with the Muslim community and also engage those that are not Muslim. But if there ever was a situation, these ayat once again tell us that you focus first and foremost on those who have already established their loyalty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. This companion, Abdullah bin Maktoum radiallahu anh, was one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defended. And he was a person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was rebuked because of by Allah azza wa jal. Now here's the interesting point. Was Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam offended by this whole scenario? This is a question. Stop for a moment. Would you feel offended? Would I feel offended? Very possible. If I was, doing something and someone else came and because of them I was, rebuked or corrected, it's possible I would hold hard feelings towards that person. But look at the purity of the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not only did he hold no hard feelings against this companion, rather that companion became very dear, beloved, and even more dear to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he used to say with joy, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with happiness and joy, he used to say, "Oh, the one because of whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala corrected me." He used to call out to him later on years that you are the one because of who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala corrected me. Ya laha marhaban. He would welcome him and he would celebrate this companion. Abdullah bin Maktoum radiallahu anhu's eyesight did not return for the rest of his life. Yet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam always kept him at the forefront because Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam knew that if revelation was revealed for this man, he was special to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just because he couldn't see doesn't mean that he is pushed into the closet. Like what happens unfortunately in our communities. If someone has a small disability, people begin to speak ill of that person. That maybe it's a jinn. Everyone stay away. Don't let your kids play with that kid, otherwise the jinn will come on to you too. The illnesses are many. Go and ask the parents of these children how it feels to raise their child in this environment. First of all, you're struggling with taking care of the child, then on top of that, you have to deal with all the garbage and rubbish taboo that exists in the community. There are mothers and fathers who said firsthand to us that I haven't prayed Eid Salah from the day my child was born. Where do I go? Who will look after my child? Who will take care of my child on the day of Eid? How can I go? A mother has said to me, from the day my child was born, I haven't prayed Jum'ah Salah. Because how will I take care of my child? There's no one there to support me, no one there to look after my child. She says to me that I wrote a letter to my child. And in the child, and she made a dua by the Kaaba, and then, she was asked to share her experience of raising her child. So she, in the letter that she would read in front of the congregation, she recalled this dua. And she said, I went to the Kaaba and I made dua to Allah. I said, Ya Allah, don't give me death before my child, because the world can't take care of mine. Who will take care of my child then? If I die before my child. My child needs me. La ilaha illallah. Which person makes a dua like this? In essence, she's saying, Ya Allah, give my child death while I'm still alive. That's the dua she's actually making. Right? And I know someone may go on this whole fiqh trip that is it even okay to make a dua like that? Put that aside. That's not the point right now. The point right now is, what have we done as a community to push people forward who need assistance, getting them involved, getting them engaged? You want to know what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam did? This ayah didn't stop him, it only pushed him forward. Abdullah bin Maktum radiallahu anh became one of the close students of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. There was never a time after that Abdullah ever approached the Prophet of Allah and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam didn't make himself available. Before even Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam arrived in Medina Munawwara, before his own migration, the Prophet of Allah sent Abdullah bin Maktum as one of the earlier companions in Medina Munawwara. And Abdullah bin Maktum and Mus'ab bin Umair radiyallahu anhuma together gave da'wah to the people of Medina Munawwara and called them towards Islam. In multiple occasions, some scholars have listed almost 10 times, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam left Medina Munawwara on an expedition, on a journey, and in his place, as his na'ib, he left Abdullah ibn Maktum radiyallahu anhu. That you will be the one that will lead people in salah. You will take care of the affairs of people in my absence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed an ayah in the Quran that those who stay behind from battle are not equal to those who engage in battle. Abdullah ibn Maktum radiallahu anhu was saddened. He said, O Messenger of Allah, you know that I wouldn't stay behind. I would have never stayed behind. The reason why I stay behind is because I can't see. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again reveals a verse in the Quran to please Abdullah ibn Maktum radiallahu anhu, غَيْرُ أُولِي الضَّرَرِ. That little clause is added in the ayah. لَا يَسْتَوِي الْقَاعِدِينَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ غَيْرُ أُولِي الضَّرَرِ. That those people who stay behind due to some illness, they are not included in this. Your reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He became one of the people who would call adhan for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There were 3 famous mu'adhinun. Bilal radiallahu an, Abu Mahdura radiallahu an, and Abdullah ibn Maktum radiallahu an. Look how much Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam raised this person. And he stood by the side of the Muslims. He then wanted to participate in the battle. And he would tell the companions, take me with you to the battlefield. I can't weave a sword. I can't swing a sword around. What I can do is hold a flag. Put me between the Muslim lines, I will stand there. And because I can't see, I won't see the fear of anyone around me, and I will stand in my place and I won't move. I will hold the flag. Abdullah ibn Maktum radiallahu an, he then later on during the Khilafah of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu an, joins the Muslim army against the Persian Empire in the iconic battle of Qadisiyah. The Mabih al-Fasil, like the main battle that took place against the Persians, was called the Battle of Qadisiyah. He stood in that battlefield. And the battle was powerful. Thousands of people died. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave victory to the Muslims. This battle was fought under the leadership of Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas radiallahu anh. And after the battle was over, when they began to gather the bodies of the Muslims, they found the body of Abdullah ibn Maktum radiallahu anh, the shaheed. That day when he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam asking this question, as a blind man, he was already written a shaheed in the books of Allah. And you don't turn your face away from a shaheed. The shaheed offers his face to Allah. Be blind or not, some people have eyes, but in reality they can't see. While others may not have these eyes right here, but they can see with their heart. And Abdullah ibn Maktoum radiallahu anh proved to all those Quraysh that he was able to see the beauty in the Prophet of Allah, even though he didn't have the eyes that they had. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to learn from this. I'll recite the verses, inshallah, we can read the translation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Abasa wa tawalla, he frowned and turned away, and ja'ahu al-a'ma, that a blind man came to him. وَمَا يُدْرِيكَ, and what do you know? لَعَلَّهُ يَزَّكَّى, perhaps he will be purified. أَوْ يَذَّكَّرُ, or he will take a lesson. فَتَنْفَعَهُ الذِّكْرَى, so the reminder will benefit him. أَمَّا مَنِ اسْتَغْنَى, as for the one who views himself in no need, فَأَنْتَ لَهُ تَصَدَّى, you remain seated with him. وَمَا عَلَيْكَ أَلَّا يَزَّكَّى, you won't even be asked by Allah if he doesn't learn a lesson, because that person isn't a Muslim from the get-go. وَأَمَّا مَنْ جَاءَكَ يَسْعَى, as for the one who rushes to you, وَهُوَ يَخْشَى, while he fears, فَأَنْتَ عَنْهُ تَلَهَّى, from him you turn away. كَلَّا إِنَّهَا تَذْكِرَةٌ, nay, this is a reminder. فَمَنْ شَاءَ ذَكَرَ, whoever wishes takes this reminder. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be from those who learn this beautiful reminder and benefit from these stories of the Quran. وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.